Hi there, this is Krystal, and today I'm back with another 12 by 12 layout for Hip Kit Club. Today's assignment is to have an oversized title, so that's what I've done. I've used one of the March cut files and cut it fairly large on just plain white cardstock, and I'll be using the March main kit to create my layout. So I have a photo of Jessie and our dogs, and I plan to put it in this little spot up here. I'm going to back all of these letters and decide what kind of background I want. I haven't quite figured that out yet, so I'm just going to put you on fast forward and get started. So I'm going to start by peeling everything off of my cutting mat, and I'm keeping the insides of the letters because I'm going to use them to trace around to cut out the interior parts that I want to use to back this cut file with. So I'm going to use those to trace onto the pattern paper and cut them out by hand, and then that's what I'm going to use to back each of these letters. So I'm going to back each letter with a different pattern paper. And I've kept them all in order so I don't get too confused about what goes where. And then I'm just going to start looking through all the papers that came in this kit. They are all gorgeous, bright colors, so all of them work really well for this layout. And so once I choose one for a letter, I just trace around the back side of it, and then I'm going to cut it out with my scissors. And when you do it this way, you have to make sure that you cut outside of the lines, which is why I traced it on the back side of the paper so that I didn't have to worry about erasing the pencil lines. Because if you cut right on the pencil lines, then you won't have anything to glue to. So you need that little bit of overhang to be able to glue it to the back of the cut file. So that's what I'm doing. I don't make you watch all of this. I think I just do 2 on camera, and then I fast forward a bit to where I have them all cut out. So as I'm choosing the papers for each letter, I'm just trying to make sure that the colors are spread out across the layout. I don't want all of the blues in one area and all of the pinks in one area. I want to make sure that there's a good balance of color across the entire spread. And since this cut file takes up the majority of the page, this is where most of the color is going to come from. So I want to make sure that it has all of the colors that I want to add to the page included, and that they're spread out across the cut file. So there you can see everything is all cut out. It didn't actually take too long to do, so it's super easy when you have a cut file this big and with such clean lines. So now I'm just going to adhere all of these down to the back side, and I'm using my fine line bottle with some Scotch quick dry adhesive inside, and just doing a thin line around the very edge, and then just adding the pattern paper, making sure it doesn't overhang on the other side, and that's pretty much all there is to that. It's a pretty simple process. So now that I have all of those letters backed with pattern paper, it's time to think about what background I want. So I played around with some pattern papers a little bit, but I end up going with just a white background, and then I'm going to get out my watercolors here in a second to add a little bit of color. Everything I put it on just looked way too busy for my taste, so this is what I end up going with. So there you can see I have my watercolors out, and this is the Basil Marshmallow paper, so I don't actually add any gesso or anything to it. I'm not going to add a whole lot of water. It does warp a little bit, but that doesn't bother me. It flattens back out once I put it in my album. And like I said, I'm not adding a whole lot here. So I know that I want to add some yellow. So I'm just mixing a couple shades of yellow on this watercolor palette. And this is just a really inexpensive watercolor palette from any big box store has one like this. And then I'm using the packaging technique to add it to the page. So this is just a bit of plastic packaging from the kit, and I'm adding some watercolor and some extra water to it just to get it to move around the page a little bit, and then I'm just turning it upside down on the page and kind of moving it around, getting that really messy, splotchy look. So once I'm finished with the yellow, I'm going to do the same thing with blue. So I'm going to mix a blue that is similar to the blue that's in that paper that I've used to back the cut file with. I'm just going to mix that on this same piece of plastic, but instead of doing the packaging technique and turning it over, I'm just going to use my brush. Since I didn't wait for the yellow to completely dry, I was a little bit worried that it would mix together too much and make green, which I definitely didn't want. So I'm just going to use my brush and add it strategically to a few places around the page. I just want it peeking out around some of the letters, so it seemed easiest to just use my brush to do that. And then I'm going to add some blue splatters as well, just adding a little bit more water to the paint that I have on that plastic piece, and using my brush to splatter it. So I like the way that that looks, but I think it definitely needs some pink, so I'm going to mix up a little bit of pink as well. Again, trying to match the pink that's in the papers. I had a little bit more trouble with this one. It took me a little bit longer to get a pink that I really liked. I ended up mixing quite a few things together and kind of going back and forth with the color, but it's super easy to mix these watercolors, so it's super easy to do this. Eventually I do get a pink that looks similar to what's on the papers, and I'm not going to paint this on, I'm just going to do some splatters. So just a few pink splatters all across the page, just to add a little bit more depth to the background, a little bit more color variation. And I really like the way that looks, so I'm going to set that aside to dry, and while it does, I am going to work on the other layers on the page. So I need some papers to back my photo with, and I really love this kind of splotchy dot paper from Sunny Days. It's one of my favorite papers in the kit. Even though it's very simple, it's just perfect in my eye. So I really love the kind of grayish background and all of the colors that are included. So I use that as a bit of a neutral behind my photo. I will end up adding another layer as well. I thought about using this pink, but I'm going to end up going with that dark blue paper. It's actually the other side of the Sunny Days paper that I used on the first layer. So, but before I do that, I'm going to go through this the ephemera pack that came in the kit. This is a Hip Kit Club exclusive pack, so it was designed by Kim Watson, and it is absolutely perfect. The colors are gorgeous. The designs are perfect match to this kit. So I end up picking out a few. I just kind of flipped through everything. Since this is the first layout I've made with the March kit, I'm not exactly super familiar with its contents, so I'm just looking at everything. I want to make sure that I don't miss out on anything that would be perfect for this spread. So I look through every single little piece and I pull out a few. I only end up using a handful, but that's just kind of how I operate when I'm making a spread. I always end up pulling out more things than I actually end up using, but there are lots of super cute little icons and phrases in this pack. So you can see I have the sunglasses and a camera and a little phrase that says, life is great when we are together, and then a little green tag. I had used 2 pieces of green to back my cut file, but it needed a little bit more green, so I thought that tag would be perfect. It would bring the green up to the top of the page, and it would be that third spot of that dark green color that the page really needed. So that's pretty much what the layout is going to end up looking like. I end up playing around quite a bit more before I finish. Here's where I back the photo again with this dark blue heart pattern paper from the Sunny Days collection. And I like the bit of contrast that adds behind the photo. It's just a super thin border around the photo, but it really does add a lot. So again, this is pretty much what it's going to look like. I do decide to add a few more things. I play around with the other things in the kit, like this sticker sheet from Sunny Days. This is a thicker sheet. These are like epoxy style or plastic, not really puffy, but I guess maybe they're puffy, but they're from the Sunny Days collection. I thought about adding a couple of those, but that didn't quite work out. I do end up adding a couple of the epoxy hearts that are in the kit. These are Hip Kit exclusive hearts, and I absolutely love them. They are perfect for pretty much everything. But right now I'm looking for some papers to add to the bottom of the spread. I felt like it needed a little something to ground it, so I'm going to add a few torn strips of paper to the bottom edge, and that's going to end up kind of giving that really heavy title somewhere to sit. So I've chosen a few, and I'm just going to tear the edges really messily. You can see there that I'm not even being careful. I'm not using a ruler. I just want a messy torn edge, and the paper does curl quite a bit when you do this, but the adhesive flattens it out just fine. So I've chosen 3. There was that polka dot paper, and then this pink pattern paper, and then I'm going to use that same kind of watercolor style paper that I used to back some of the letters with. And I kind of have to hold them down with my fingers to get them to line up the way I want them to. And once I have them where I like them, I just add a tiny bit of adhesive to the back of each just to hold them in place, and then I'm going to take them off the page and adhere them all together before I adhere them to the page. Because they were curling so much and so kind of unruly to deal with, I decided this would be the best way to get them to line up the way I want them. And then I can adhere that whole thing just to the bottom edge of the page. Just like that. And I didn't get them perfectly lined up, so the edges aren't exact, and I do have to trim off a couple little pieces, but that's just fine. Just use my scissors to trim off the edge. And I like that much better. That makes it feel much more grounded. So now I've decided to pop the title off the page with some foam. So I grabbed a sheet of fun foam or craft foam. This is just the cheap foam you can buy at any big box store. It has adhesive on one side. It comes in a variety of colors. It's very inexpensive. And I just cut it to size to fit behind each of these letters. I don't want the cut file to droop at all, so I add quite a bit of this to the back of the cut file. And it's, like I said, super inexpensive, so I don't worry too much about using so much of it. I also don't make you watch that whole process, so there it is all done, and then I just used my fine line bottle to add some liquid adhesive to the back of the foam. I find that my dot runner doesn't really work very well on this foam, so liquid adhesive tends to work a bit better. I just add a little bit to all the little foam spots, and then I can turn it over and add it to my page. And I do have to hold it down just a little bit, just because I'm using that liquid adhesive. I want it to be well stuck before I move things around on the page. So now I can finally start gluing down my photo and the embellishment clusters I have around it. I do decide to pop up those sunglasses just to kind of echo the dimension behind the title. But I decide to use just some regular foam dots to do that instead of the craft foam, just because it's a little bit easier, and it's actually a slightly different dimension. It's slightly thicker, so it just pops up a little bit higher than the title, which I liked. And I thought about doing the same thing with the camera, but instead I decided to tuck it behind this little phrase die cut, and I like that a lot better. So I just adhered it straight down to the page. And I do pop up this heart, but I end up taking it off. It just didn't look quite right to me. And instead, I'm going to layer it with one of those epoxy hearts that came in the kit. And that's just going to look a lot better to me. So I just take off those dots and add it directly to the page, and then I'm going to use one of these little yellow hearts to layer it with. And I'm going to do the same thing at the top with this dark blue heart from the ephemera pack, and I'm going to add another little pink heart to it. So I'm nearly finished. I decide to add another little torn strip to the top just to kind of fill in that blank space at the very top of the page. It was bothering me a little bit. Right now I'm just kind of roughing up one of those edges. It was sticking out a little bit, and I wanted it just to lay in line with the others. And now I've just torn a little bit and cut the edge away, and I'm trying to figure out which paper I want to use to back that part with. So I tried the pink, which looking at it now I really liked, but I end up going with that same watercolor paper from Heidi Swapp's Color Fresh, and I strategically chose this part that has the teal in it. I wanted some of that teal color in the top. So that is what I use. And I think the only thing I have left now is to add my journaling, which I keep really simple. Just add a single line below the title. And again, to my eye, it makes this title feel a little bit more grounded. It gives that title somewhere to sit. And then I'm going to use my date stamp to add the date to the page, and that is going to be it. So I hope you'll try using an oversized title on your page, whether it's a cut file or some other format. if you want to see some close-up photos, there are plenty coming up. Thank you so much for watching today, and be sure to check out the links to the March kits in the description box below, and I will see you all back here soon.